All right, prepare yourself, because today we're embarking on a deep dive into a source that is truly unlike anything we've unpacked before. It's a powerful, almost manifesto-like,
Oh, absolutely.
and it challenges nearly every conventional idea about spirituality, society, and even what it means to be, fundamentally human.
Indeed. Our source material today, Calling the Children of the Sun by Marcelo Ramos Motta, it isn't just like philosophical musings.
No.
It's less a gentle suggestion and much more a clarion call. It really demands a complete reevaluation of established norms.
Yeah.
And it offers this bold, some might even say audacious, vision for both individual and collective transformation.
This isn't just ideas to ponder, it's a declaration, isn't it? It sets the stage for what it calls a new age, and it calls its warriors of the ruby and gold to rise up. So what exactly is this trumpet beckoning us towards, and what kind of regeneration are we truly talking about here?
Well, that's the core question.
Our mission today is to distill these intensely rich and sometimes, let's be honest, controversial concepts within this text. We want to help you, our listener, understand the core message intended and maybe why it still resonates, or at least provokes today.
Exactly. We'll be unraveling its core arguments, exploring the radical redefinitions it proposes for, well, everything from personal suffering to the very fabric of societal structures.
Right.
And we'll also examine its unique and sometimes confrontational critique of established religions and spiritual movements. It's definitely a deep dive into a text that aims to shake foundational beliefs and incite a profound inner awakening.
Okay, so let's jump right in, because the text opens with this definitive, almost calendar-setting statement. It declares that the new age of Aquarius-Leo, well, it didn't just slowly dawn.
No, not gradual at all.
It began precisely in April 1904. And this wasn't just some arbitrary date. The author states that at this exact moment, the Earth was occultly regenerated by fire.
Regenerated by fire, powerful imagery.
And what's truly remarkable, maybe even a bit startling, is the claim that all children born after this precise date are said to carry the seed of the energies and spiritual tendencies of the new age deep within their unconscious.
What's particularly striking about this declaration is the specificity. April 1904. In many esoteric traditions, the concept of ages, age of Pisces, age of Aquarius, they're usually seen as vast astrological eras.
Thousands of years, yeah.
Right, spanning millennia with these slow, gradual transitions. But this text pinpoints a singular pivotal moment for the dawn of this Aquarius-Leo age, and crucially associates it with this profound regeneration by fire.
So what does that regeneration by fire actually mean? It's not literal burning, presumably.
No, almost certainly not meant literally. It's better understood metaphorically, I think, like a powerful purging, maybe, a purification, or just a massive infusion of new spiritual energy into the very consciousness of the Earth.
Like an alchemical process on a planetary scale.
Exactly. A sudden infusion of new potential into the collective human psyche. That's a good way to put it.
So if you were born after April 1904, according to this text, you inherently possess a different spiritual blueprint, like pre-installed spiritual DNA almost.
That's the implication.
And it's not something you acquire through learning or initiation in the traditional sense. It's something you were born with, a seed already deeply rooted in your subconscious.
Precisely. This concept suggests a fundamental, maybe even unavoidable, generational shift in human consciousness and potential.
It really makes you wonder about generational divides, doesn't it?
It does. If newer generations inherently carry different spiritual inclinations or tendencies right from birth, it sheds a fascinating light on why they might instinctively challenge older paradigms, or why new societal values seem to emerge so quickly sometimes.
It frames it as an inborn spiritual tendency rather than learned. That radically flips our usual understanding of spiritual development.
It really does. And this innate connection also leads directly into the text's specific call to action for a particular group it identifies: the Children of the Sun.
Ah, yes, the Children of the Sun.
The book explicitly calls upon the group of the Children of the Sun incarnated in Brazil to the execution of their wills, urging them towards the consciousness of the aim of incarnation and the accomplishment of the great work.
So it's a very targeted message, almost coded for a specific spiritual lineage, not just everyone.
It seems that way initially, yes. Very specific.
And it's crucial to understand, you mentioned this, that Children of the Sun here isn't about physical race or conventional nationality, right?
Absolutely not. The text defines them as a spiritual race or lineage, distinct from physical races. It talks about spiritual races as there are physical races, and even nations in the invisible world as there are nations in the visible.
Invisible nations, that's intriguing.
It is. These are abstract concepts more akin to soul groups or, deep karmic connections that transcend geographical boundaries and physical characteristics.
So how did they identify these connections?
Well, the author explains that ancient heralds weren't just designers of coats of arms. They were seers who could clairvoyantly perceive the animic nature, the soul essence of individuals, and they'd symbolize it with a layman, which is like a spiritual crest.
A spiritual crest, like a
Yes.
soul signature.
Sort of, yes. This clairvoyant heraldic science, as the text calls it, allowed for the mapping of an individual's deep spiritual or animic nature, linking them to these invisible nations or soul groups.
Wow. And how does this connect back to the children of the sun recognizing their calling?
What's truly fascinating is how this astral symbology is said to work. The text describes that certain symbols, when presented to someone who's had maybe no prior contact with occultism or spiritualism,
Right, completely new to it.
they can still trigger this profound intuitive recognition. They feel an awakening of activity in his consciousness and perceives intuitively that he belongs to the symbols or that the symbols belong to him.
So it's like an innate connection, a resonance that bypasses conscious learning.
Exactly. It's almost as if a dormant part of their consciousness recognizes its own spiritual heritage, like a kind of cellular memory stirring to life. Deep stuff.
Definitely deep. And okay, here's where the text really grabs your attention, because it immediately launches into this radical redefinition of suffering and sin.
Oh, yes.
Core concepts, absolutely central to so many traditional spiritual and religious paths. It forcefully rejects the notion of the world as a valley of tears or an abode of demons for sin expiation. It states unequivocally, I tell you that all this is finished.
That's a monumental declaration, just finished.
It asserts that suffering is not a divine test, not a means to spiritualization, but rather the fruit of ignorance, a symptom of error, not a sign of spiritualization.
A symptom of error.
And then it lays down the gauntlet with a statement that will likely challenge many listeners. Every human being that suffers by its own fault.
Oof. That's direct. And undeniably confrontational. It's a challenge to major theological tenets found across, well, a vast array of religious traditions.
Huge implications there.
Think about it. If suffering is a personal fault, if it's not divine punishment or a path to redemption, then it places this immense, almost uncomfortable responsibility squarely on the individual.
No external scapegoat.
None. The text connects ignorance here not merely to a lack of factual knowledge, but more profoundly to a fundamental lack of self-knowledge, a lack of awareness of one's true divine nature.
So it completely shifts the focus. Away from seeking external absolution or passively accepting some divine plan for suffering.
Towards a radical demand for internal transformation and accountability. It requires a profound level of self-reflection and personal agency. It really pushes back against any kind of victim mentality or passive acceptance of hardship.
It certainly makes you consider what attitudes that belief might encourage or discourage in daily life. Probably a highly proactive approach to well-being.
You'd think so. Instead of merely praying for relief from suffering, you'd be compelled to look inward, to identify and correct the ignorance or error that the text claims caused it in the first place.
And speaking of looking inward, the text then introduces this potent, almost alchemical imagery, the inner fire and the philosopher's stone.
Mm-hmm. Beautiful symbolism.
It proclaims, the light is in thee. Within each person, it says, burns an inner fire,
Yes.
which is none other than the philosopher's stone that transmutes the painful lead of Saturn into the beautiful, luminous ruby and gold of the sun.
Wow.
And this inner fire, it claims, consumes the illusory web of the karma from the moment when the soul awakens to the consciousness of its true identity.
That symbolism is incredibly rich, isn't it? It draws so deeply from ancient alchemical traditions. The inner fire is like that divine spark, the very essence of one's being. Soul, spirit, whatever term you prefer.
Yeah.
And the alchemical philosopher's stone, in this context, it's a profound metaphor for spiritual transformation. It represents the ultimate catalyst.
Taking base elements.
Exactly, which here are suffering, ignorance, karmic burdens, and transmuting them into something utterly precious and divine. Enlightenment, profound joy, pure spiritual essence.
And the karma part is radical too. not a fixed debt to be paid off.
That's what's striking. It's a radical reinterpretation. Karma isn't some immutable debt you have to work off through endless cycles of rebirth. Instead, it's an illusory web
Illusory.
that simply dissolves or is consumed by this inner fire the very moment the soul fully awakens to its true identity. It suggests true liberation from karmic cycles comes not from suffering or penance, but from profound self-realization.
That's a game changer for many spiritual paths.
Completely. And the text really connects this inner fire to various esoteric traditions, showing its universality,
Like what?
It mentions ancient symbols, like the Uraeus serpent lifted upon the forehead of Pharaoh, that symbol of awakened consciousness and divine authority.
Right, the cobra.
And Kundalini in the Tantras,
Yeah.
old toiled spiritual energy at the base of the spine, cultivated by Agni yogis, practitioners of fire yoga.
Okay.
It claims the brand of this inner fire is visibly depicted on the forehead of the Buddha and all the Tibetan and Brahmanic divinities.
So it's widespread symbolically.
Yes, but here's a kicker, one that truly flips traditional understanding on its head. This inner fire is also described as one of the possible brands of the beast, the solar lion.
Whoa. Linking it to the beast.
Exactly. It shows a deep, often hidden connection to various and sometimes misunderstood esoteric traditions. It positions this inner fire as this universal transformative power, even linking it to symbols traditionally seen as negative, but recontextualizing them as potent forces of liberation and self-realization.
That's a lot to unpack. The beast as a symbol of inner fire.
It is. And all of this complex symbolism and redefinition, it builds to one of the most powerful and often repeated declarations in the entire text.
Which is?
Every man and every woman is a star.
Ah, yes, that phrase resonates.
It's not just poetic flourish, it's repeated multiple times, deeply connected to the idea of our fallen star and our inherent inner essence. It speaks to a cosmic origin and an intrinsic, unassailable divinity within each individual.
The implications of that statement are truly profound, aren't they?
Yeah.
It underscores individuality, inherent divinity, absolute self-sovereignty.
Exactly. It positions each individual not as a fallen being needing external salvation or redemption, or as inherently sinful.
But as a cosmic entity.
A cosmic entity with intrinsic worth and limitless potential. If you are a star, you inherently possess light and power.
This concept, the light is within you, radiating from your very essence. That really is the bedrock for the next section, isn't it? Where it radically redefines spirituality itself and how we relate to the divine.
Precisely. It flows perfectly.
So if every man and every woman is a star, and if you are indeed a spark of the spiritual sun, then it naturally follows that the light is in thee.
Logically, yes.
Which leads us directly into the text's radical rejection of external spiritual authority, a core tenet that shapes its entire philosophy. It emphatically states, "Do not search for light in churches and temples. The light is in thee."
That's a direct, forceful challenge to institutional religion, organized worship, any system relying on priestly intermediaries or external mediators for spiritual truth.
Bypassing the middleman entirely.
Completely. The fundamental idea here is that truth, divinity, spiritual guidance. They aren't externally dispensed or found within consecrated buildings. Rather, they are discovered, awakened, and cultivated entirely within each individual.
It puts the locus of spiritual authority squarely inside the self.
Right inside. It demands a completely self-reliant and internal approach to spiritual awakening. A profound shift from, well, centuries of externalized devotion in many cultures.
And this internal focus leads to some truly provocative statements about traditional worship and the very idea of, like, proxy salvation.
Oh, absolutely. Brace yourself for this one.
The text states, "Flee therefore those that would save thee by proxy. Do not worship God, because when you do so, you try to force God to worship himself in thee, and this is masturbation."
Wow. Yeah, that's undeniably a bold, almost confrontational statement right there.
It doesn't stop there either. It then advises, "Worship rather thy neighbor, or that stone, or the farthest star, for I am divided for love's sake, for the chance of union."
The provocative nature of these statements cannot be overstated. The rejection of traditional God worship isn't atheism in the usual sense.
No, it feels different.
Exactly. Every atom, every being is a facet of the divine, a unique expression of the same underlying light. And that line, "For I am divided for love's sake, for the chance of union," it beautifully highlights the cosmic purpose of division and subsequent reunion. All existence becomes a dynamic expression of the divine, seeking to know itself through countless forms.
And it reinforces this by calling out false prophets or exclusive gods.
Right. It says any prophet, every book, every god that would have thee tend to bend thy knee to anything, or being with exclusion of the rest, is a false prophet, is a foolish book, is a black god. It reinforces an inclusive rather than exclusive understanding of the divine.
This philosophy, this radical internal locus of power, it culminates in another core tenet that defines the individual's path. Thou art thy own way. Central. The text urges, flee therefore those who would try to convince thee that suffering, voluntary, blind, or passive, that the subjection of the freedom of thy mind to another, that the negativization of thy aura is the way. Thou art thy own way. For this reason it is written, ye shall know truth, and truth shall make ye free.
This is the absolute core of self-reliance and personal liberation in this text. It's a forceful rejection of asceticism, blind obedience, any philosophy that diminishes personal power or mental freedom.
Challenges the idea that you must suffer or submit to find truth.
Completely disavows paths that advocate for self-denial or passive surrender. The emphasis on truth, leading to freedom, links directly to Gnostic and other esoteric traditions of self-knowledge, where true liberation comes from understanding and embodying one's intrinsic divine nature.
But the challenges and responsibilities of being your own way, they must be immense.
Oh, absolutely. It requires constant self-awareness, deep integrity, and unwavering commitment to inner wisdom. It certainly contrasts sharply with societal pressures for conformity or external guidance.
Totally.
It means charting a unique course rooted in your deepest inner knowing. It really asks you, the listener, if you are your own way, what decisions might you make differently today?
Good question. And to wrap up this section on a profoundly optimistic, empowering note, the text offers this breathtaking reframing of our entire world and existence.
This is one of my favorite lines.
This world is not an abode of demons expiating their sins. This world is a bedchamber of sleeping gods who sleeping dream.
It's a truly transformative perspective, isn't it? Instead of seeing earthly existence as punishment, sorrow, or exile,
It's a divine nursery.
a place of unfolding potential and cosmic play, it implies all beings are essentially divine, and their earthly experience is a kind of dream, a process of gradual awakening to their true inherent nature.
It fundamentally transforms the perceived grimness of existence into a canvas for divine self-discovery.
Exactly, where every individual holds immense dormant power waiting to be recognized and unleashed. Imagine looking at your neighbor and thinking, there goes a sleeping deity, maybe dreaming of cosmic wonders. It completely shifts your perception of reality.
It really does. Okay, so if this world truly is a bedchamber of sleeping gods, then how do we engage with those still dreaming, especially those we traditionally label as weak or suffering?
Well, the text offers a shockingly blunt answer here. It really challenges our conventional notion of compassion. It confronts the common teaching, pity the poor, the humble, and the weak, with this stark rebuttal. What right have you to feel pity for the dead, ye who are dead? For if you were alive, you would know that the spirit is eternal, indestructible, and divine.
Wow. Calling people dead if they pity others.
Essentially, yes, spiritually dead or asleep. It then goes on. Therefore the masters are pitiless and selfish. Stamp down those who fall and think only of themselves. Therefore it is written that to make gold you must have gold to begin with. Therefore it is written that to him who has, more shall be added. But to him who has not, even what he has shall be taken from him, and therefore it is also written, let the dead bury their dead.
Okay, pitiless and selfish masters, stamp down those who fall. That sounds incredibly harsh, jarring even.
It's deliberately provocative, no doubt. It challenges the conventional virtue of pity, arguing it's often based on an illusion of mortality and weakness. The pitiless and selfish masters in this context aren't cruel in the human sense.
How else could it be interpreted?
They operate from a perspective of profound spiritual knowing and absolute self-possession. From their vantage point, true help isn't sentimental hand-holding or perpetuating a victim mentality.
And the to him who has.
That's not about material wealth. It's about spiritual abundance, cultivating one's inner divinity. It's a call to self-empowerment. It suggests that expending energy on pity for those who are spiritually dead, unaware of their divine nature, is ineffective, maybe even counterproductive.
So pitilessness and selfishness here are virtues, in a way.
Interpreted as virtues that empower the self, yeah. Ensuring one's own spiritual vitality rather than depleting it through perceived external needs, which might inadvertently keep others stuck. It's about not lowering yourself to match someone else's perceived lack.
Okay, very different take. So if traditional pity is out, what is true charity from this text perspective.
It offers a completely radical redefinition. It says, compassion is a feeling illusory and offensive to the real nature of man. Do you by any chance have pity on God?
Pity on God? No, that sounds absurd.
Exactly the point it's making. It continues. True charity consists in a spiritual trance by which the disciple arrives to the consciousness of the divinity contained in all that exists. This leads to a new light, a new lighthouse for humanity.
So charity is a state of consciousness.
Yes. It explains further, such are the pelicans, such are the true sacrifices, that is, that which is made sacred, such are the sons of the light, and it is this light that is the true charity. Do not give alms to beggars, extinguish beggary in thy inner self, and give life, love, liberty, and light to all mankind.
Extinguish beggary in thy inner self.
Yeah.
So it redefines charity from a material act of giving, like alms.
To a profound state of spiritual being and manifestation. It's about embodying divine consciousness and radiating that essence, inspiring and uplifting others by your very being rather than perpetuating dependency through traditional handouts.
And the Pelicans reference.
That points to ancient esoteric symbols of self-sacrifice and nourishment. But here it implies giving from one's own regenerated divine essence, from an overflow of inner light, not from depletion or pity.
Giving from abundance, not lack.
Precisely. And the text clarifies this. The true fraternity presents always the true symbols, but without explaining them. The intuition of the divine things awakens certain activity in the hearts. Moved by a force in himself, the individual joins the current that harmonizes with his rate of vibration.
So true help is leading by example, allowing others to find their own truth through resonance.
Exactly. It underlines the core principle again. There is no law beyond do what thou wilt, meaning true action stems from divine will, not obligation or pity.
This radical stance then brings us to a similarly radical take on personal responsibility and collective karma.
Another counterintuitive one.
If you truly want to do good to your neighbor, the text advises a very different approach than what many of us might expect. It says, increase then your wisdom, your health, your wealth. Awaken your spiritual activity and let your neighbor do the same when he will.
Right. Focus on yourself first.
Be sure that the more happy, healthy, and wealthy you are, more socials, you shall increase the possibility of happiness, health, and wealth of others. For he who frees himself of the load lightens the job of those who still bend under it. This is the sole way to lighten efficiently the karma of mankind.
This is a truly counterintuitive take on altruism. It directly challenges the common notion that you must diminish yourself or sacrifice your own well-being to help others.
Instead, it proposes that abundance in all forms, wisdom, health, wealth, understood holistically, not just materially, radiates outward.
By perfecting yourself, maximizing your own potential, becoming the most vibrant and actualized version of yourself, you become a powerful beacon, a source of inspiration. And that, it argues, effectively lightens the collective karmic load for everyone around you.
So personal responsibility and self-mastery are the most potent forms of collective upliftment.
That's the argument. It even inverts that well-known biblical phrase, if you would take the speck from your brother's eye, take before the beam you have in yours.
Right. Emphasizing self-work as the prerequisite.
Absolutely. And it reinforces, thou hast no right but to do thy will. Do that, and no other shall nay. This section really underscores the radical individuality and the reevaluation of moral tenets that permeate the entire text, which inevitably sets the stage for an even broader and at times scathing critique of established social and religious institutions.
Given all this talk of new ages and radical redefinitions of core concepts like suffering and charity, it's probably no surprise that the text then takes a very sharp turn into critiquing established systems.
Makes sense. The old has to be cleared for the new.
It begins by asserting that religious systems of the previous age of Virgo Pisces were characterized by what it calls macerations and psychophysiological masochism.
Strong words. Masochism.
Yeah, this includes practices like Sunday church, spiritualistic seances, and even candomblé, all labeled as promoting passive receptivity and bending knee meekly, which it emphatically declares is finished.
This immediately establishes a clear historical and spiritual timeline, doesn't it? A kind of evolutionary progress of consciousness. The text suggests that past religious forms, characterized by self-denial, passive submission, externalized spirituality, they're now spiritually obsolete.
Outdated for the new age.
Right. The core critique is that these systems inherently disempower the individual and foster dependence on external authority or ritual rather than promoting active, self-directed spiritual growth. It's a paradigm shift. The old ways simply don't align with the new energetic reality of the Aquarius-Leo age. They are seen as practices that weaken the inner self rather than empowering it.
And nowhere is this critique more pointed than in its re-examination of the Christian narrative.
Yeah.
It dissects it with startling directness.
It really goes there.
First, it offers this radical reinterpretation of the crucifixion. You are that one crucified on the cross of flesh, and your crucifixion is the baptism of incarnation. Ye are the way, the truth, and the life. Rise, as he rises daily in the baptism of resurrection. Rose Cross.
That entirely reframes the story of Jesus, doesn't it? From a unique, singular historical event into a universal internal process applicable to every single individual.
The crucifixion becomes a metaphor.
For the soul's incarnation into the limitations of flesh, the cross of flesh. And the resurrection symbolizes the daily, ongoing process of individual spiritual awakening, rising to one's true divine self, shedding those limitations.
So salvation isn't external, it's internal. Self-achieved.
That's the idea. You are the Christ, in essence. In potential.
Then it dives into scientific denial, directly ridiculing the Christian denial of the earth revolving around the sun.
Right, the whole Galileo thing.
It contrasts it sharply with the knowledge attributed to Egyptian initiates who adored Ra-Hoor-Khuit, meaning son of the two horizons, suggesting they already knew better. It explicitly cites Galileo's famous defiant cry, "Eppur si muove."
And yet it moves, yeah. This highlights the text's strong emphasis on empirical truth and scientific observation over blind dogma or religious decree.
Criticizing religion for suppressing knowledge.
Exactly. It implicitly criticizes institutional religion for that, framing ancient esoteric wisdom as being more aligned with scientific reality and objective truth than later dogmatic religious doctrines. It's a powerful call for rationality and open inquiry within spirituality, a rejection of any system demanding belief over demonstrable fact.
And it doesn't shy away from challenging deeply ingrained societal and religious norms, especially around sexuality.
No, definitely not.
It directly challenges the traditional admonition to repress your sex with a radical countercommand. Be more blessed, as more potent, as when you thirst for the beauty and refreshment of woman.
Embrace potency.
For it is true, the voice of sex is the voice of the beast in you. It is the voice of the Lamb of God and the choice of the solar lion. 666, Ome.
Okay, hold on. The voice of sex is the voice of the beast, and the Lamb of God, and the solar lion. And 666, that's mind-bending.
Right. The very beast of Revelation, 666, often associated with ultimate evil, is here reframed as a symbol of this powerful, positive inner fire, a solar force for liberation.
This is a profoundly powerful revaluation of sexual energy. Instead of being something repressed, denied, or seen as sinful,
It's reclaimed.
as divine, potent, a fundamental source of spiritual power and vitality. The beast here, 666, is inverted from its traditional negative connotation to a positive, solar, powerful symbol, related to vital force, primal energy, creative sexual expression.
So true spirituality embraces and transmutes these forces, doesn't deny them.
That's the implication. It embraces the full spectrum of human experience, including the primal forces of creation, seeing them as expressions of the divine within. It's about conscious engagement with these energies, not repression.
And on the topic of God, the text pulls no punches either. It launches a direct attack on a specific theological archetype.
Which one?
I tell you that the God who rewards those who bend their knees and confess themselves sinners and beg forgiveness is a vampire, is a false god, is a black god.
A vampire god. Wow.
It then unequivocally states, the tree God is inside you, and that bending knee to any shrine that be not this inner shrine is the greatest crime.
The greatest crime. Strong words.
It even quotes the Prince Count of Saint Germain, supposedly saying, yes, my friend, Jesus is nothing, but to afflict you is always something, and therefore I shall speak no more. And then, almost as an aside, adds, Osiris is a black god.
Okay, these are profoundly provocative challenges to core Christian beliefs and really any belief system that externalizes divine authority in a way that demands submission.
Calling that kind of god a vampire.
It portrays an external, demanding god as parasitic a vampire or black god because it drains individuals of their inherent power and self-sovereignty by requiring submission and confession of sin for salvation.
Whereas the text champions the internal divine.
Making self-reverence and recognizing one's inner divinity the supreme spiritual act, the statement about Jesus being nothing further deconstructs the traditional savior narrative, suggesting its spiritual irrelevance in this new age. And labeling Osiris a black god in this context could imply that even—
And the Catholic Church specifically, it doesn't fare well either, does it?
No, not at all. The text declares, with brutal frankness—
What does it say?
It is dead, as all they who belong to it, and its apparently great present activity is no more than the unconscious turmoil of decomposition of a giant corpse. The Christians to the lions.
The Christians to the lions. Good grief. No subtle critique there whatsoever.
No, absolutely not subtle. It's a total rejection. Painting the institution not just as irrelevant, but as a dying, decaying entity, despite any outward appearance of activity. It signifies a complete and utter disavowal of its spiritual relevance or efficacy in the New Age. It views its continued existence as merely the inertia of a decaying form, not a vibrant spiritual force.
Okay. Beyond Christianity, the text also offers a comparative critique of Spiritism and Macumba. These are spiritual movements prevalent in Brazil where the author was active.
Right. Context is important there.
For Spiritism, it points out what it calls a technical defect and a spiritual defect. The technical defect is passive abandonment to astral worlds.
Passive mediumship, essentially.
And the spiritual defect is the concept of Jesus as a non-existent entity, merely a mask with which Osiris was offered to Greeks and Romans, with Osiris now being deemed, again, a black god.
Okay, so the technical defect of passive mediumship, or OB, as the source calls it, is criticized as directly contrary to human evolution, which this text emphasizes requires active will and conscious engagement.
Active, not passive.
Right. Genuine spiritual growth and power come from an active stance, where the individual retains control and direction of their own energy. And by deeming Spiritism's Jesus as just an illusory mask for Osiris, who's now labeled a black god, it places Spiritism firmly within the old age paradigm of externalized, disempowering deities. It views its practices as potentially leading to spiritual stagnation, not true liberation.
Now, Macumba, on the other hand, while sharing the same technical defect of passive force OB, is surprisingly called less harmful to the inner self than the Spiritism. Why?
That's interesting, isn't it? The distinction is made because Macumba worships, under several names, the same gods of the Greco-Roman pantheon, who are explicitly described as personifications of great forces.
Personifications of forces, not an illusory figure.
Exactly. This implies a more naturalistic, elemental, or archetypal understanding of divinity, one that acknowledges fundamental energies of existence. And this is linked to the awakening of the great god Pan.
Pan, the nature god.
Yes. The reemergence of Pan, the wild, chthonic, nature-based deity, suggests a return to primal, instinctual spiritualities. This awakening of Pan is seen as a positive sign for the New Age, representing the resacralization of raw, untamed, immanent divine forces. These are considered more authentic and empowering than the externalized, abstract deities of the previous age.
So connecting with elemental forces is better than connecting with what it sees as a false historical mask.
That seems to be the argument, yes, even if the method, passivity, is flawed in both cases from this perspective.
Okay, shifting gears from spiritual institutions to political ones. The text has equally sharp words for communism, particularly its stance on individual ownership and equality.
Which it views as directly opposed to natural law.
Right. It argues communism is neither primitive Christianism, because true Gnostics, it claims, worship God in themselves, not in a collective.
Interesting distinction.
Nor scientific materialism, because it's based on idealistic and romantic axioms like human equality and what it calls the blasphemy of personal possessions.
Blasphemy of personal possessions.
And the text states this is in flagrant contrast with the natural law of evolution by mutation and by selection of the species, where survival must always be of the fittest.
Okay, it's really important to reiterate here for you listening that this critique is presented as the source's view on natural law and evolution. We're impartially reporting on the content provided, not endorsing specific political ideologies ourselves.
Absolutely. Clarity is key there.
The author here is vehemently championing individual variation and competitive evolution as fundamental natural laws, directly opposing socialist ideals of equality and collective ownership. It argues that a society should allow the maximum of freedom for each individual to develop freely and by personal choice his natural tendencies, and to compete freely and equally with others upon life's field of battle.
That's a stark vision of radical individualism, progress driven by the ascendancy of the most capable.
It is. And to really drive home the point about the blasphemy of personal possessions and argue against collective ownership, the text uses a rather crude but certainly memorable rhetorical argument.
That's that?
It says, if personal property were theft, then men would all have a single body, a single brain, a single tongue, a single penis, and a single anus.
Wow. Okay, that's visceral. A shocking way to argue against collective ownership, emphasizing individuality down to the physical form. Like without individual property, you lose individual essence.
Indeed. And it reiterates that core tenet again, which we've heard before, making it clear this is a foundational principle. Thou hast no right but to do thy will. Do that, and no other shall nay.
Encapsulating its fierce individualism. Personal will as the ultimate arbiter, even in society.
Suggesting true freedom is rooted in individual autonomy, even over communal ideals.
Our final institutional critique is Masonry. And here the text offers a more nuanced, almost hopeful perspective, though with a strong distinction.
Right, it's not a blanket condemnation.
It says, Old Masonry, based on the Hiram Jesus, sacrificed god Osiris legend, is just as dead as the Catholic Church. So the old form is dead.
Obsolete, tied to the old Aeon's archetypes.
However, here's the twist, the phoenix-like possibility. New Masonic shoots are being carefully tended by the masters in charge of the spreading of the good news. That is, the social and spiritual principles of the new Aeon.
Ah, so a revitalized core.
Exactly. And then it names names. These masters include Sir Aleister Crowley, M33 degrees, and King of the Order of the Temple for England. And an even more important role did he act as incarnation of the beast 666 and the Count of Saint Germain.
Naming Crowley and Saint Germain, that directly ties this new masonry to Thelemic and other advanced esoteric traditions, emphasizing radical self-sovereignty.
And the beast 666 again, presented positively.
As a transformative, even incarnated force for the New Age's spiritual principles. Self-actualization, unfettered will. It's a statement that while an old form or outer shell may die, its essential spirit can be reborn in a new, more potent manifestation, adapted for the incoming age.
The text concludes with this powerful paradox. Masonry is dead, it lives. The king is dead. Long live the king.
A perfect summary of that dynamic. Rebirth through transformation.
Having seen how the text dissects specific, often flawed spiritual organizations, it then zooms out to reveal a much grander, more complex vision of spiritual brotherhoods working behind the scenes. This naturally leads us to the true, elusive mystery of the Rose Cross.
The true invisible order.
The text makes it clear that very little is known of the Rose Cross, and warns that many orders and fraternities using the name are simply not authentic.
A common theme in esoteric circles. The genuine versus the imitation.
It says the true, mysterious supreme fraternity always existed under other denominations, has no headquarters, and its members do not declare themselves.
This immediately sets a tone of profound discretion and hiddenness, distinguishing genuine spiritual power from public organizations and their recruitment efforts. It suggests true spiritual influence operates outside public view, subtly.
How does it operate then?
The text explains that whenever a determined environment, society, initiatic center, or whatever, needs and deserves the attention of the Rose Cross, some missionary is sent, or one of the members of said society or fraternity is inspired.
So it's responsive, and often through inspiration, not direct intervention.
That's the idea. Subtle, directed influence based on need and merit.
And it gives us a very clear litmus test for authenticity. A stark warning to you, the listener. Every society that affirms itself or considers itself the authentic and only Rose Cross either is deceived or is deceiving.
That's a pretty definitive statement, isn't it? A direct way to filter out claimants, tells you exactly who to be wary of.
So what do we know about the true Rose Cross, according to the text?
Well, from the little that is known, it offers several compelling characteristics. First, they adopt the clothes of the time and country in which they travel or act.
Blending in? No special robes?
Exactly. Seamless integration. Second, they know each other at once by certain characteristics who go unperceived by the profane.
A subtle energetic recognition.
It implies that, yes, a shared vibration. Third, their influence is much farther from Rosicrucian organizations as more of these protest it to be near. Again, highlighting their hidden, indirect impact. The loudest claims often indicate the least authenticity.
Okay. Fourth,
they adore periodically in a temple of the Holy Ghost, which is at once nowhere and everywhere, where they heal the sick to transmute metals and where they commune with each other.
a non-physical temple, a shared consciousness.
Seems like it. Not a building, but a spiritual state or space. And fifth, they possess classic alchemical and spiritual achievements. The elixir of life, the stone of the philosophers, the summum bonum, and the perfect happiness.
The big goals. But the text adds a crucial clarification, right?
Yes, crucially, it clarifies that having these powers does not mean they are doctors healing physically, or atomic physicists transmuting metals in a lab, or that they live unusually long earthly lives because of the elixir.
So their powers manifest differently.
Yeah.
Subtly. Internally.
It underscores that their powers manifest on a different plane, perhaps subtly or inwardly, affecting consciousness and spiritual states, rather than in an overtly miraculous or materialistic way. It guards against a superficial interpretation, emphasizing the internal spiritual nature of their great work.
And as if to underline the warnings about inauthenticity, the text then goes on to critique specific Rosicrucian organizations it deems inauthentic. It uses them as examples of deviating from purity or exploiting seekers.
Naming names again.
First up is Aeon or RC, the ancient and mystical order Rosicrucis. It states that Aeon or RC was founded by H. Spencer Lewis, who disobeyed the orders of his superiors, used an undeserved name, betrayed his master, and most critically, received money for initiations.
Which it calls a serious bylaw violation for any true initiatic order. That's a direct accusation of fundamental ethical and spiritual failures. Disobedience, betrayal, commercializing initiation.
Contrasting sharply with the hidden, non-commercial nature of the true rose crop.
Exactly. True spiritual knowledge isn't something bought or sold. Integrity is paramount.
Then there's the Rosicrucian fraternity in America. The text claims it degenerated under R. Swinburne Clymer, described as a traitor and infamous member of the Black Lodge, and was corrupted by the very methods of the Great Sorcery.
That paints an incredibly dark picture. Corruption, infiltration by malevolent forces, reinforcing the distinction between genuine spiritual currents and those subverted or degraded, a strong condemnation of that organization's trajectory under Clymer.
And finally, the Fraternitas Rosicruciana Antica, started by Dr. Arnold Krumheller, a high-grade member of the OTO. He had permission to start, but his use of the name Rose Cross was deplored by all the brethren, who consequently drew away from the founder and the order.
So even with initial permission.
The text says it's now in the process either of dissolution or of transmutation.
This critique highlights a different kind of failure, a departure from the collective wisdom or agreement of the higher brethren regarding the use of the sacred name. Even with good intentions, a lack of alignment with the broader, subtle spiritual fraternity could lead to an organization's decline or transformation. It underscores the rigorous standards of fidelity expected.
Okay. From these specific criticisms, the text then zooms out again to describe the great fraternity of the Brethren of the Light, a much grander vision.
A more complex picture of the forces at play.
This fraternity has subdivisions: the Black Fraternity, the Yellow Fraternity, and the White Fraternity. Symbolized in the Kabbalah, that ancient system of Jewish mysticism by the three sons of Noah.
Okay, 3 distinct paths within the light.
And here's the kicker. They always antagonize and compete with each other.
Always antagonize and compete. That's counterintuitive within the light.
Right. It suggests that even within a larger brotherhood of light, there are distinct paths, not always in harmony. They antagonize and compete, suggesting evolution and spiritual progress can occur through dynamic tension, even apparent conflict between different methodologies.
So it challenges the simplistic notion of a single, unified path to enlightenment. Diverse, sometimes conflicting methods can still contribute to a greater progression, pushing each other to refine their approach. Interesting.
So let's break down these 3 fraternities and their distinct aims. First, the Black Fraternity. Its core assertion is that every manifestation is necessarily of the nature of sorrow.
Okay, a bit pessimistic sounding.
Its aim is, therefore, the liquidation of personal karma and absorption in nirvana. Its highest exponent is given as Buddha Siddhartha Gautama, and its canonical work, the Dhammapada.
So this describes a path focused on transcending suffering and karma through detachment. Ultimately, the cessation of individual existence into nirvana. Liberation from existence, viewing manifestation itself as sorrowful.
Next, the Yellow Fraternity. Its view is that every manifestation being necessarily started from above, it must have its reason for being.
A more accepting view of manifestation.
Its aim is to adapt himself plastically to the conditions of manifestation and never presume to modify natural processes. Its greatest exponent is Lao Tse, and its canonical work, the Book of Tao.
This path emphasizes harmony with the natural order, acceptance of the inherent wisdom of manifestation, cultivating effortless flow, non-resistance, perfect adaptation to existence rather than active intervention or escape, becoming one with the Tao.
And finally, the white fraternity. Its aim is to become what Madame Blavatsky called a nirmanakaya, essentially a being who, having achieved nirvana, consciously chooses to reincarnate to help humanity.
Ah, the bodhisattva ideal, in a sense. Active compassion.
Its great work is the progressive transmutation, first of the personal metals into gold, next of the planetary metals into gold, and finally of the universal metals into gold. Its purpose, make the desert to flower in beauty and perfume.
Wow. Active transformation on a massive scale. The alchemical metaphor, again, extending from personal to planetary, even universal. Actively cultivating beauty and manifesting divine potential within the world, not escaping it.
And its greatest exponent is startling.
Let me guess, given the earlier hints.
The great beast of the Revelation, with its canonical work being the Book of the Law.
There it is again. The white fraternity's exponent is the beast, another powerful, deliberate inversion of traditional symbolism, positioning a figure often seen as demonic as the champion of the highest, most active, most beneficial path for humanity in this new eon. Radical transformation.
And the text cleverly concludes this section by stating, "And because thou hast not wisdom, thou shalt not know whether these three fraternities make one or make three."
Inviting a higher intuitive understanding beyond intellectual categories, suggesting a deeper unity or complexity that transcends dualistic thinking. Very nicely put.
From these grand fraternities and their diverse aims, we turn now to the most direct statement of the author's own fraternity, the Son's the Sun. And this is where the text's radical theology really becomes explicit.
Okay, laying the cards on the table.
It starts by unequivocally declaring their identity. Our fraternity is the fraternity of the Sons of the Light. Our habitation is the lake of eternal fire, the sun.
Explicit allegiance. The sun here is both literal and symbolic, isn't it? That vast lake of eternal fire, representing boundless light, power, the core of spiritual essence, originating from and dwelling within the ultimate source of illumination.
Listeners, prepare yourselves again, because what comes next is perhaps the most audacious reinterpretation in the entire text. It directly confronts deeply ingrained religious concepts head-on. The identity of their father.
Right, this is the big one.
The phrase that truly grabs you. Our father is Satan, the Lord of the eternal fire, the Lord of the sun, the solar logos.
Satan is father, that's designed to shock.
The text then explains that this Satan was also through history called Abrasax, Mithras, Ra, Baal, Allah, Christ, and innumerable other names. And its chiefs are explicitly named as the Beast 666, the Solar Lion, and his concubine Babylon.
Okay, this is crucial and vital to understand its context. Satan here is not the Abrahamic devil, the entity of evil as traditionally understood.
Important distinction.
Absolutely. The text recontextualizes Satan as an archetypal force of the sun, representing primal creativity, self-assertion, dynamic energy, the driving force of manifestation, the solar logos, an active divine principle.
And the list of other names, Abrasax, Mithras, Ra, Christ.
That extensive list isn't meant to be sacrilegious. It implies that this fundamental, universal divine principle, this force of light and life, has been misunderstood, misrepresented, or simply called by different names across various spiritual traditions throughout history.
So it's reclaiming an archetype.
Precisely.
Yeah.
And similarly, the Beast 666 and Babylon are recontextualized as positive, active principles of the new Aeon, representing the male and female aspects of this dynamic divine force, symbolizing strength, creativity, the unfolding of conscious will in its purest form. Again, we must emphasize this is the source material's redefinition of Satan, presented impartially, not an endorsement of traditional Satanism.
Understood. A critical reevaluation of archetypes. The text then introduces an even higher cosmic hierarchy above this solar logos.
Pushing the boundaries even further.
Above our father Satan, there is Our Lady of the Stars, in whose lap our father rests, and Hadit, her spouse, of whom nothing can be revealed, and of whom our father is one of the children, whose body is the star soul.
This introduces Nuit, Our Lady of the Stars, and Hadit, her spouse, as even more fundamental primordial principles, the ultimate source from which all else emanates. Nuit representing infinite space, infinite possibilities, the totality. Hadit, the infinite point of self, the individualized consciousness within that vastness.
And their union gives rise to
The manifested universe and its children, including the solar logos, which the text calls Satan. It's a grand cosmological vision where even the most powerful manifest deities are but children of an even more boundless, ineffable, divine reality. creates a sense of profound, layered mystery.
So how do humans fit into this grand cosmic scheme, this web of divine principles?
The text states, "Men have always adored the spiritual sun, of whom we are sparks crystallized upon earth, and our divine dreams and hungers are memories of our house, the immense lake of light."
Sparks crystallize,
Yeah.
memories of our house.
It powerfully connects individual human consciousness directly to a cosmic stellar origin. Our aspirations, our deepest longings, our divine dreams and hungers aren't just earthly desires or psychological constructs. They're presented as echoes of a forgotten divine home, that immense lake of light, a fundamental homesickness for our divine source.
And it acknowledges diversity, too.
Yes, it says, "Others incarnated upon earth who are sons of other stars, for, as it is written, the house of my father has many mansions," implying a diversity of spiritual lineages. Humanity isn't monolithic, but a complex tapestry of souls from different cosmic sources, each with unique qualities. You, the listener, might be a child of a different star, with your own blueprint.
And this all culminates in the powerful declaration of the crowning of Horus, the divine child.
The culmination of this Aeon.
The text proclaims, "In the age of Aquarius-Leo, the world has already been regenerated by the fire. The star has fallen upon the earth, and the darkness of the world already is becoming green and garlanded with the dawn. Today, he is not only our father, he is our master and our mate. He is ourselves, the crowned and conquering child, Horus, the son of Isis and Osiris. In his name, Hiru-Raha, the child god, the word made flesh in each of us."
That is a truly potent statement declaring the definitive advent of the Aeon of Horus. In this new age, the divine principle is no longer distant or external or passive. It is inherent, active, fully actualized within each individual.
Horus is the crowned and conquering child.
Representing a dynamic, self-actualized divinity, the child god, the word made flesh in each of us, it signifies a period where humanity's divine potential is not just recognized, but actively embodied and manifested. It's a call to become living gods on earth, to actualize that inner sun, that inner star in every aspect of your life.
To reinforce this profound internal connection, the text includes a beautiful direct invocation, almost a poem.
Yes, a shift in tone.
"Thou who art I, beyond all I am, who has no nature and no name, thee I invoke, my faint, fresh fire, kindling as mine intents aspire. Thee I invoke, abiding one, thee, center and secret of the sun, and that most holy mystery of which the vehicle am I."
That serves as a powerful means of direct communion with the divine self, a deeply personal prayer or meditation. "Thou who art I, beyond all I am," speaks to that transcendental yet immanent nature of the divine core.
Center and secret of the sun.
Reinforces the connection to the solar logos, the animating force, the heart of the cosmos and the individual, and of which the vehicle am I solidifies that core idea of humans as conscious vessels for this most holy mystery, actively participating in its manifestation. Radical co-creation.
And the section concludes with arguably the most famous phrase from the Book of the Law, the ultimate declaration of this new Aeon.
Needs no introduction, really.
"Love is the law, love under will."
This powerful phrase perfectly integrates love with will. It's not passive love or mere sentimentality. It's active, conscious love aligned with one's true purpose and deepest self. Love under will means universal connection expressed through individual, self-determined action, a dynamic interplay. True will is ultimately an expression of universal love.
This radical theological shift, living from this empowered inner divinity, it paves the way for profound practical applications in society, doesn't it?
Well,
especially regarding future generations.
absolutely. How do you raise children if they are divine sparks? How do you structure society?
Following such a profound redefinition of the divine and the self, it's only natural the text turns its attention to how we should build the future, starting with the most fundamental unit, the education of children.
And here again, it's quite radical. Challenges deeply ingrained societal norms.
It states, "Your children do not belong to you, and parents who give their offspring their own name, followed of junior, are satisfying a sad vanity."
Ouch, calling out the junior thing directly.
Explicitly says parents should not wish children to resemble them. Instead, in the new age, the individual, man or woman, is the unit of society, and the family is merely the first group.
This completely redefines parenthood, shifting from ownership or lineage to guardianship of new, divine beings. It emphasizes fostering absolute individuality over conformity.
The individual becomes the primary building block of society, not the family.
Right. The purpose of parenting becomes cultivating independent, self-actualized beings who will fulfill their own unique divine will, not just be extensions of the parents or family line. It's a call to liberate the next generation from the very start.
So if these children are fresh incarnations of divinity, how do you gain their respect, not just demand it?
The text advises, if you would have the respect of your children, do not demand it as a right. Prove by the example of your deeds that you deserve it.
Lead by example.
Awaken virtue in thy inner self, and thou shalt see with surprise how virtue lights up in the hearts of others. It's about prioritizing internal development above all else. Genuine respect is earned through your own integrity, self-mastery, embodied wisdom.
Not an inherited right of parenthood.
Exactly. By cultivating virtue within yourself, you create a resonant field that inspires similar qualities in others, including your children, allowing them to find their own inner light. A powerful form of indirect guidance.
This emphasis on freedom extends even to parental authority, making a striking claim. The more parents reinforce their authority, the more children rebel, and they do well.
Rebel and do well. That's provocative.
It advocates for a truly global, even cosmic perspective. Man's country is the world, his world is the universe, and his family is all mankind. He concludes by urging parents to treat children as fresh incarnations of divinity, God's newly descended.
This is a radical call to reject controlling parenting styles, arguing that imposing rigid authority just breeds rebellion, which, from this perspective, is actually a healthy impulse for these new divine beings, promoting a boundless worldview. Treating children as God's newly descended instills a profound sense of their own inherent divinity and potential from the earliest age, sets the stage for a new kind of human being.
And the text gives some surprisingly practical guidelines for raising these free beings, almost a manual.
Practical advice amidst the high philosophy.
It says, allow them all opportunities to acquire knowledge and experience and let them choose freely. Limitations should only be for a conservation of health and the discipline of intelligence.
Like explaining fire burns rather than just forbidding.
Exactly, that example is given. It promotes an educational approach rooted in freedom, exploration, understanding, not blind obedience. Cultivating critical thinking, personal responsibility, learning from consequences.
Teaching them how to think, not what to think.
And it delves into puberty. That pivotal moment when the fire manifests itself or the water springs, parents are urged not to put out the fire or dam the water, meaning don't repress these natural forces.
Acknowledge the power.
Instead, teach children all you know of the reproduction of the sexes, how to avoid conception, hygiene for venereal diseases. Then, and this is key, let your children walk freely through the wide world.
A profoundly liberated and responsible view of sexual education and adolescent autonomy. Open, honest teaching about sexuality as a natural force. And then, trust. Let them walk freely, armed with knowledge and personal agency, an immense leap of faith in the individual's capacity for self-governance.
The ultimate goal, the text states, is for children who love without harming and without being harmed, and will fly higher and further than you ever reached.
Beautiful goal.
And here's a twist of healthy egoism for parents. What greater source of pride may parents have than see how their children surpass them in everything?
Encouraging parents to actively desire their children's transcendence, seeing it as the ultimate success, not an ego threat.
It even suggests a fascinating karmic reciprocity, stating that if you raise freer and stronger children, they, in their turn, will make of you ever stronger and freer men and women when you reincarnate in their midst.
A karmic feedback loop. The positive influence you exert comes back to benefit your own spiritual evolution in future lives. That's quite a motivator.
The conclusion encapsulates this vision. Each child that is born and grows healthy and free is the hope of mankind. Water than the flowers, O men, if you would someday gather the fruit.
A powerful call to cultivate the next generation as the very embodiment of humanity's divine future, tending to them as the most precious seeds.
From the individual unit of children, the text expands its radical vision to societal structure, using a compelling analogy.
Society as a living body.
Exactly, with laws serving as its bones. These laws, it argues, must be organized to have the maximum flexibility combined with the maximum of strength and resilience, allowing the maximum of initiative to individuals and the maximum of intercourse to institutions.
This critiques rigid, hideous laws that obstruct free functioning. It champions a legal framework that's dynamic, adaptable, designed to support individual freedom and spontaneous healthy interaction. Laws should facilitate life, movement, growth, not restrict it unnecessarily. A legal system that breathes.
And this leads to a crucial and seemingly paradoxical statement attributed to the Count of Phoenix.
What's the paradox?
The absolute authority of the state must be the function of the absolute freedom of each individual will.
Ah, that is paradoxical. Absolute authority from absolute freedom. How does that work?
It argues that legitimate state authority doesn't come from imposition from above, a top-down structure. It emerges organically from the absolute freedom and self-determination of each individual.
So, a truly free populace, acting from authentic will, somehow self-organizes. And the state's authority is a natural consequence, a reflection of that collective freedom, not its suppressor.
That seems to be the idea, a truly bottom-up, self-organizing society, where the state serves as a reflection of the collective, liberated will.
A radical vision of governance. And to reiterate the absolute primacy of individual will as the foundation for both personal and societal perfection, the text states again, as the ultimate law governing this new societal vision.
Let me guess. Do what thou wilt.
Almost. Thou hast no right but to do thy will. Do that, and no other shall say nay. For pure will, unassuaged of purpose, delivered from the lust of result, is every way perfect.
Pure will, delivered from the lust of result.
Yeah.
That's key. It's not just doing whatever you feel like. It's deeper.
Much deeper. It's not just a personal mantra, but intended as a societal blueprint, grounded in that perfected, purposeful will.
Wow. What an extraordinary journey through calling the children of the sun. This deep dive has truly challenged us to look at so many fundamental assumptions, from suffering and charity to the purpose of existence, even the structure of institutions. It demands you reevaluate everything.
It really is a text that doesn't just offer new ideas, but demands a complete reframing of our perception of reality itself. By asserting the light is in thee, and every man and every woman is a star, it shifts the entire burden and, crucially, the glory of spiritual progress onto the individual.
Liberated from external saviors and restrictive dogmas.
A radical call to self-sovereignty.
And the call to action isn't passive reflection. It's about actively manifesting our divine will through our deeds, through our lives. It's like a blueprint for building a new world.
Well, where children are raised as conscious gods, society amplifies individual freedom, and humanity is seen not as fallen, but as sleeping gods who sleeping dream, right on the cusp of a grand awakening.
The core message, do what thou wilt, shall be the whole of the law. When you understand it in the context of love is the law, love under will.
It becomes not a license for chaos or selfish indulgence, but a profound responsibility. To align one's true divine will with the universal current of love, manifesting one's highest potential for the benefit of all, not just oneself.
So, as you go about your day, maybe consider this provocative thought from our deep dive. If your inner being is truly a center and secret of the sun, what actions will you take today that reflect that limitless power and light within you?
Yeah.
And how might that spark ignite a similar fire in those around you, simply by your example? What does it truly mean to be a crowned and conquering child in your own life, right here, right now?
And maybe consider this too. If the world is indeed a bedchamber of sleeping gods, what role will you choose to play in waking them up? Starting with yourself, naturally, and perhaps recognizing the divinity hidden in every face you meet.